there, it's Nicole for Lawnfawn, and today's card showcases a light up interactive element with the Chibitronics. I think that's how you say it. I might be saying it wrong. Light up kit, and it's going to light up the windows of my gingerbread house. You can kind of see the difference here where it's lit up, where I'm pushing where the gingerbread men are, and it just is a fun interactive way to kind of dress up, spice up your holiday cards or any kind of card. I'm going to start by doing all of my stamping and coloring and kind of getting all of my components ready, and then I will build up the light up portion of the card. So I'm using my Misty to stamp my elements for the card. Some of the elements, there's going to be multiples. So things where I'm going to have multiples, I'm kind of putting down here below because I'm going to need to stamp those more than once. And then the gingerbread house, my candy canes that are going to go on either side, and the gingerbread men, those are only going to be one time. So I'm going to go ahead and just stamp those once. I like using the Misty because I can stamp my images one right on top of another several times if I need to get some really nice, dark, crisp stamped images. So here I'm just going to trim off part of that and then position the rest of my paper so that I can stamp these images again. Again, ink them up, stamp them a couple times until I have everything that I need. I thought I would stamp them one more time, and I really didn't need to do that. Now for the gingerbread house, instead of stamping the windows separately and placing them on top, I'm going to stamp those right on the gingerbread house, almost as if it's one whole stamped unit, if that makes sense. So I'm going to add my peppermints and the windows to the design, and then I'm going to start coloring it in. Part of the reason I did this is that way I only have to create a way to see through those windows through one layer instead of two. I want those lights to really show up, but I don't really want to cut out my windows. I want the light to show through this cardstock layer. So the lights are actually going to be layered underneath these windows. I am coloring everything in with Copic markers today. The colors of markers I am using are shown across the bottom of the screen. I am speeding through this pretty quickly, simply to save time so we can get to the good interactive light building part of this card. However, I did want to make sure that if you want to know what colors I use, they are shown across the bottom of the screen, plus the whole process is shown. Anything that's duplicates, I tried to cut out of the video just to save time. So the candy canes are all going to be colored the same. The peppermint sticks, the same as the candy canes. Little things like that, just to kind of help save a little bit of time. My gingerbread men are the same colors as my gingerbread house. 2 colors is all it took to color in these cute little images. I had to go over them a couple times just to get the shading the way I wanted it to look, but E55 and E57 are a couple of my favorite color combinations for browns. Next, I'm going to skip over to my peppermints. Again, I am sticking to just a couple different colors, R24 and R29. Some green frosting trim on my house. I thought about leaving it white, but I really felt like my card needed some pops of color. So I grabbed YG01 and YG17 for the green trim. The door is going to be red. I really like the pop of red here, but I'm going to add green trim to the windows, just around that, and then color in the windows with some yellow markers. I did pull in one additional color of red marker here, the red or R46, to darken up a few areas. Some nice green there, and here's that yellow. So when the light shines through it, you're going to still see the yellow, but it's just going to light up those areas. A little warm gray one for the white areas on the peppermints, and then some frosting trim on my gingerbread cookies and the candy canes, again sticking to R24 and R29, and a little warm gray one, which I think I forgot to put across the bottom of the screen for the white areas. I forgot the little dots there on the gingerbread man, so I did those afterwards and colored over the brown with it, and it worked fine. I'm going to color in some of the rest of the accessory pieces to build my kind of, I call it Candyland type of scene. It's a gingerbread Christmassy scene, but for some reason all of these sweets remind me of Candyland, which was one of my favorite games when I was little. I don't know why, it just does. Anyway, I'm going to finish coloring in some of these images. There were a couple I ended up not using. For the most part, I used everything I colored. I think I didn't use one of the stars. I don't think I used one of the peppermint sticks. There were several little things. Some of them I didn't even color because as I was coloring, I realized I had more than enough. My trees, I'm using a little bit of the feathering technique to color them in, and I also chose some darker green colors than what I used for the gumdrops or my frosting trim on my gingerbread house. Over to the left, there are some candies that I tried different color combinations. I didn't like those, so we are not using those for the card here. Now, I did die cut some other elements for my design. You can see I have the stitched hillside border here. I actually die cut a stitched rectangle, the A2 sized first, die cut 2 borders from it with stitched hillside borders. On the front one, I did add my greeting from the Sweet Christmas stamp set. Then I laid out my borders and kind of took a pencil and drew that in because I want to add some blue sky back up above, but I really don't need it everywhere. So those pencil marks are going to give me a guide to where to apply my chipped sapphire ink. A little tip here, I did not re-ink my chipped sapphire foam. I just went straight to it. Because I am inking up smooth cardstock instead of watercolor cardstock, I found this kind of worked a little bit better. There was plenty of ink on my foam applicator to get that ink on my background. I'm going to go ahead and build up some of the components here. Not quite everything, but some of it I need to get adhered so I have a guide to where to go for my lights. So I'm putting some things on the background. The only panel that actually is going to be raised up is that, or the stitched hillside border panels, I think, if that makes sense. No, I lied about that. It's only the front panel. So I'm using it as a guide. I used a gel pen to mark on the back of the gingerbread house. And then while that ink was still wet, I pressed it in place on my second border. Unfortunately, I didn't realize I was out of frame, but I took a craft knife and cut out those areas because I need to be able to see through these. Then I'm using a pencil to draw that area where those are going to be, because that's where I need the lights to go before I adhere my house. So now I'm just adhering my house here, making sure everything lines up. It is critical that those lights are right behind my little cut openings. So I had to cut out my openings in that back stitched hillside border because, again, I don't want my lights going through more than one layer of paper so that they really show up and shine. I'm also going to mark back behind where the gingerbread men are with a gel pen. It wasn't a great, but it gave me a good idea of where I want that interactive battery element to go. I don't want my lights to be on the entire time. So what I did was I'm just drawing little lines here. This is a guide. This helps me to know where to put my copper tape from the Chibitronics set. It shows me where I want to put my battery. I'm drawing in all my little pluses and minuses. However, I sort of did that wrong. I also have the housing for my battery. I put it on backwards, so I'm going to have to lift that up. I like to use lots of little not tricks necessarily, but kind of almost little guides to help me know where my plus and minus. I need to know the plus and minus sides for my battery. I need to know my plus and minus for the lights. And you're going to see that in a minute because I messed it up a little bit. I put my lights on wrong. Luckily, that was a super easy fix. You want to fold your copper tape back on itself when you're making turns instead of cutting it and reattaching it. You are going to get a much better connection. I learned this from the first time I did it. I tried to cut it in a couple places, once on accident. It just kind of tore. If you fold it back on itself, just follow the instructions in the little guide that comes in that starter kit. It really tells you what you need to do. Burnishing, or you can use a bone folder like I'm using here, or your fingernail, and flattening it is going to help your connections so much. Now this is where I messed up. The little pointed end is going the wrong direction. So I need to flip those all around, and you're going to see once I do that and put my battery in, oh, they light up. I had to switch out. One of my lights was not very good, so I actually just switched it out for a new one, and that was perfect. I'm going to use some glue dots to attach my battery in my little battery housing unit here. It is going to help a ton. I'm going to do it on to hold it down both sides, but you actually have to push it to get the lights to come on, so that's going to save your battery life. I'm adding some accents now to some of my pieces. Oh, there you can see the house is lighting up. Some stardust glitter pin to the gumdrops and the trees and things like that. And then I need to build up this layer the same height as the battery housing box. So I have found about 2 layers of the Scotch foam adhesive will hold that up really nicely. I'm going to build that up all the way around, back behind my gingerbread house. Make sure you don't cover up those windows. And I'm just going to build it up so that it's a nice flat layer all the way around. And I just kind of kept checking. I wanted to make sure I kept my foam tape exactly where it needed to go. That one overlapped a little bit. I needed to trim it. And when you light it up, the windows for the gingerbread house light up, which is so super cute and fun. I am going to take the snowflake from the Sweet Christmas stamp set and stamp it with the Yeti pigment ink. It doesn't show up a ton. I do think in maybe the finished or the final photos you can see it a little bit better. Go ahead and take my foam backing off of the foam tape, and I can attach that here in just a second. I am going to build up a few more components of the scene. Add my remaining trees, gumdrops, candies. Just build it all up and make it a really full kind of Candyland sweet Christmas scene. I just love all of these little things. I think they're so fun. And you guys know me, I love my scene cards. So I love finding a way to make those interactive elements like the light up kit here work with the scene. Lawnfawn has so many cute images that work great for this. Once I kind of have everything where I want it to go, my candy, my little star, all of that, I'm going to go ahead, pull off my foam tape and attach that panel. This is where I did add the rest of those snowflakes. It's easier before you attach a dimensional panel to go ahead and stamp those. That's why I waited. And as that pigment ink dries, you can kind of see them a little bit more in the background. It's almost like putting Versamark ink over that distress ink. It really is. Super easy little light up kit. It's getting easier every time I create it. So there it is with the little light up feature. I will finish by adding some stardust glitter pin to my trees. I always like that. I think it gives it the look of kind of ice or frost on my gumdrops to make them look like they're sugary. The Wink of Stella glitter pin to some of my candies and things to give even more glitter and fun. I added that to the windows as well. Some little white dots to the cheeks on my gingerbread man. Even more glitter. This is a Christmas scene after all, so I love that glitter there. And glossy accents to the doorknob. Thanks for joining me today for this Lawnfawn card showcasing Lawnfawn stamps and dies with the Chibitronics Light Up Kit. Please be sure to check out the Lawnfawn blog for more ideas and inspiration.